Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Qdabra's last webinar of 2021. I hope you have had a good year. I hope you at least survived it. It's been a crazy year, and we're very happy here at Qdabra to have made it through 2021 and be prepared for whatever 2022 brings us. Obviously, it's been tough, I know, everywhere here in the United States with the surging pandemic, and if you're listening to this video, we are basically kind of taking it easy this Christmas in Seattle. We have about a half a foot of snow on the ground, and it's very cold. It's like -7 Celsius, whatever that is, like 20 degrees Fahrenheit. And anyway, we're trying to take it a little bit easy here as we move into the first of the year because of the uncertainty around the new variant. Hope you're doing well. Anyway, today I'm happy to present our last webinar of the year, and this is a new technique that Jimmy and Dawn came up with about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago. It's actually kind of a take on an old technique. It's kind of an improvement to something we've done before, and that is scaling images. So if you have a form with images, you have a receipt, you have like a picture, something like that, and you want to allow people to capture images from their cell phone or maybe just from their desktop. You want to allow them to attach images. You often run into the problem of a large form. So a form that might be have lots of 25 megabytes of images, or 50 megabytes of images. When you have a form that has a lot of images, obviously it's going to take longer to submit. So we're going to show you a technique to reduce the size of the underlying image. That's the first thing we're going to demo. And there's a couple of cool ways to do that. Now, that was already there. So we already had that in qRules. It's in Forms here today. No news there. We've done a webinar on this, but it was many, many years ago. The two new techniques are two, and well, there's sort of an improvement to this AlterImage command, which we'll show, which allows you to make the change without having to use the same command with the image built into it. So the command gets a little simpler, and it also preserves aspect ratios. So that's kind of cool. We'll talk about that. And then the second thing we'll talk about, the second new thing is a new custom command that actually changes what it looks like in the view. So it doesn't actually change the underlying image. It just changes how the image looks in the view. And this is really cool for forms that have basically you want to conform in the form. You want to conform the images to a certain size without changing their resolution, without changing the quality of the image, so you can zoom in later and still have all the detail. So that's a really cool new technique. Now, in both of these techniques, the new AlterImage stuff with the aspect ratio preservation and setting the maximum height or width, and then the new technique which is this view only modification. Both of these techniques are I guess built into Forms here, so we're going to give you the tools to do them. And without any further ado, I just want to quickly go over once again why we're doing this. The first is to reduce the size of the images, speed up your form submit, and then the second is to retain the aspect ratio so that the images actually look good. So the first demo we're going to do today is the expense report. We've done this many times before. So we have this this kind of stock demo that I do when I'm presenting Forms Viewer, and this is this expense report. Kind of has everything in it. It's all the little techniques that we've added. And more, but there's a floating label. So I'm just going to fill out this form here. In fact, just to make this a little bit less wide here so you can see that we have the responsive design. The form is responding to the size of the browser. I'm going to add a couple images here. So I'm just going to say webinar demo, and today is 30th. Christmas or New Year's Eve, and we're just going to add a receipt for repair. And this receipt is going to be an image file. So this is the technique. I'm going to add the image. Can I find it here? So we have just a regular PNG file for that. I don't know what the amount is. I'm just going to type in $120. And then we have one more image I'm going to show. This is not something with text in it. It's an image of a waterfall, actually. But I just want to show the technique of how it scales the images on Submit. So just imagine this is a really detailed image of a receipt instead of a waterfall. We'll make the waterfall free. Okay, so I've got these two images added. I just want to make sure I added the right one. So I've got these two images added to my expense report form. And I'm just going to make sure I have the right one here by checking the size of this. View details. Okay, so that is the right one. That's 3.7 megabytes for the second image there. So they're filling out a form and they've attached a few images, whatever the form is. Sometimes we have customers that have forms where they're trying to actually take lots of pictures of a piece of equipment and they're trying to circle it with their finger and show this needs repair or whatever it is. Those are a great example. That's a great example of what would be valid in this case. This is a demo. We actually haven't changed the demo form since I did a quick demo for a potential new customer. Just ignore that. But if I click submit here, it's going to pop up an overlay, hopefully. And it's going to basically ask me if I want to, maybe I need to add two images instead of one, or more than two. I think that I might have, we're only throwing the pop-up to change the image scale if the images are greater than a certain amount of size. And it may be that I'm under the limit here. So it's trying to upload the images. I think that's what the case is. But that's okay. We can let this submit and do it again. Okay, so it's generating a PDF with the images attached, and it's submitting the form. So it didn't give me the pop-up. So I'm going to try this one more time. And I'll just add that image, that waterfall image, twice. It doesn't really matter what the expense is because obviously the main thing is we want the images to be larger than we want to submit. And you know, Apple has a limit of about 25 megabytes for their, I'm just going to add this image twice actually. So there's one. You can tell how long that took to upload just to here. We know it's a large image. And add again. I think these two images will knock us over that 5 megabytes. So Apple has when you take a bunch of pictures from your iPhone, you can see here we exceed the limit now. So if you exceed the limit, it's going to give us this pop-up saying, hey, you've passed the threshold when you attach the image. So that's kind of nice because you may not really want to do that when you attach them. But when we submit it, it's going to give us an option to scale them. And this is the thing that is useful. So this is the demo. And that is now obviously the images don't contain any text in them, the new ones I've added. So the OCR isn't really optical character recognition isn't really a consideration here. But if I wanted to search the data in the receipt and I had text in the image, then I could run the OCR on it and store the text for search purposes. And for that reason, I'd want a higher detailed image. So one of these last two options. But for today, I'm just going to scale it down. So you can see that I had more than 5 megabytes, but by switching it to small, it's going to automatically convert my images, all the attached images, there's 2, to a smaller size. So we'll do that. And we don't really know that until we save it. So here's the PDF. You can see that the resolution for the PDF is a little bit different. You can see those are the 2 images I attached. Because the images were a lot smaller now, it's scaling the PDF a little bit differently. It's kind of interesting. Okay, so the form is submitted. And here's the form submitted, I believe. So you can see that once it's submitted, it sends an email out, and it gives me a link to open up the form again. It also submits it to a library. So I can go to the library and see the form submitted. Let's just do that real quick. So there's the form I just submitted about a minute ago. That's the first one there. And that's the form that is still open. It usually closes, but for the purpose of this demo, we're leaving it open. And it's converted these images, though, to a smaller size and save them in the form. And how do we know that? Well, we could download this XML. We could take a look at it and see how big it is. So if the images were still 2-3 megabytes or more, then we'd expect the XML file to be even larger. And I think I can open this here. You can see that the image size, the XML file size is 500 KB. So it has converted the images down. I can also click on this link here to see the receipt. There's the receipt, not really a receipt, but and I can save the image here and save it to my my webinars folder for today. And see what the size is. Go to the folder, and you can see there that the saved demo that I just saved was 185 KB. So it has converted the images down. If I have not converted them, so let's take a look at the old one, the old form here that I added. Go back to here and open it. We have a different form template link to the library than we do, I think, from the demo site. So this may show a different form template, which no, I guess it's the same. That's good. Maybe we should fix that. So there's the form I submitted initially. It didn't have enough size to trigger the threshold or to exceed the threshold and trigger the save conversion. So if I go here and look at my image, you can see there's the image with the text in it. And this one actually has text, and so it's running the OCR. It's running the Google image OCR on it to scrape the text from the image so that if we wanted to search for it, we could do that. The previous image, which was not converted, you can see how slow that is to render. I can save this out to the same library and just call this save demo 2. And you can see there is the much larger image. That's actually the same size as the image that I attached. So it is actually converting the image down. And the benefit to you is mainly this reduced time and submit. So that's the first demo, is we have a command now that allows you to essentially alter the image from a given size to a different size. And you can check, so the demo, that's the first demo. This is always there. So this is not new. We could do this before. When you convert it, you have to pick one dimension. In this case, we're picking the width, and we're basically altering that image. So, but the image has to have, the command has to have this really long XML string representing the image in it. So typically, you would have a rule that concatenated this string together, and for the image, you'd have like image equals. So you have like concat AlterImage / image equals, and then the quote, comma, and then the field where your image was, right? Or the field, in this case, we're going to do it more than once, so you'd have to have a trigger and run this command more than once. But you would basically insert the field there where you see that long range XML string. And the downside of this is that it's just modifying it in place. So it's not really super convenient because you may want to change it once you might want to, oh, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Let's change it back. Oh, well, sorry, you can't do that. Okay, so the second demo that we're going to show today is new. And this is showing scaling with the zoom option and no loss in resolution. So let's take a look at this real quick here. So we have the real world scenario, our expense report form, but we also have this sample form I'll send you if you fill out the survey. Actually, if you register for the class, I'll send it to you. Register for the webinar. So here's the form. This should be demo 2. We didn't change the name here. I decided to do the expense report first. But you can see we have a form that has 4 different images attached. And let's just take a look at the first one. So this image is this motorcycle image you can see is there in the overlay. And maybe it's not a motorcycle, maybe it's a scooter. But if I click on this negative, you can see the image changes its size. So this command here is actually changing the size of the image, and I think, yeah, so that's basically showing you the scaling. It's changing it in the view and not changing it in the form. So this is really nice when you have a view and you want it to conform to the width of the view. You don't want it to look like it did at the very beginning where it's all expanded. You want it to actually look like something that will fit in a browser view for a desktop or for a mobile phone. So you want to actually scale it to whatever the column width is where you're in your form. And you can use this command to do that. So it's not going to actually change the underlying resolution of the image, and you can then use these buttons to zoom in on it. But by default, it's going to look really good in your form. So this is a new command, and this is a custom command, actually. We've created this using this new qRules technique, allows you to create your own commands. So we're going to actually include this, but we're calling it scaling.js. So you actually have to add a resource file to your form. Scaling, it's custom scaling, whatever it is, .js. And actually, this is the wrong, I did this out of Word. So this is actually demo 3. So it's called custom scale picture, and you'll have a command in your form that loads the resource custom scale pictures. We'll include that in the webinar kit, and then you'll run that command custom scale pictures. And you'll do that every time they click one of those buttons, the zoom button or the zoom out button, and then you'll basically pass in some parameters based on the on what it was before. And you'll see that in the sample that we send. But this new command allows you to do that zoom in, zoom out, and it keeps the aspect ratio, makes the image conform to whatever the width of that column is for your form. So that's a really cool technique. That's new. And that is cool because the images look better in your form and they're not losing any of the resolution. So you can zoom in on them and see the fine detail. So like, let's say they take a picture of a piece of equipment that needs repair. Well, in that case, you're going to want to zoom in and see exactly what's broken. But you might want to initially show like a thumbnail. So that's a great example of that. Now, the third demo, which is called number 2 here, we got the numbering screwed up. But the third demo is showing how to alter the image in the actual XML. So as opposed to using just the view and the custom scale command, we're actually going to show you, so it's not custom scaling in this case, it's actually going to scale it, but actually change it. So it's going to convert the image into a smaller size, and it should, this is wrong. This slide's wrong. This no loss in resolution is what we meant for demo 3. when we're scaling it with AlterImage, we can actually keep it in a secondary data source and not affect the original image. And that's kind of, so we can do it without loss of resolution. But in general, it's going to change the underlying XML. Okay, let's do that demo. Last demo. So this is a second sample form that we'll send you. And you can see that we've got a repeating section here, the same images we saw before. But now we've got these different options here. We can actually scale it. We can say, hey, so there's the image on the left, right? You can see it's not conforming to the width at all of the form. But I can change it to large or medium or small and apply the changes. And now it's going to save that XML data back into the form. And you can see here, this is a nice message here saying, well, are you sure you want to overwrite that and lose resolution? Yeah, okay, we'll do that. And now if I open it, you'll see that I have a much smaller image. And of course, that is the actual size now because I've converted it. But you can see that it's much smaller than it was before. I think before, if I open it up again from scratch, it wasn't a huge image to begin with. So it was about 0.2 megabytes. It's not a really big image. It has things bigger. I do. I have this 709 here. So this one here is much bigger. It's not quite a megabyte, but it's not a huge image. And you can see that there's Dawn's cell phone account maybe. And if I change this, you can see the size there is shrinking down. I can get all the way down to 0.89. That was probably not a good size if you want to OCR it, but I can make these changes happen. And then the sample form will save it with that new size, 0.089. So basically what this is showing is, and here we have, instead of using a concat that has the entire image in the command, not a good practice, we're actually giving you the option now to specify an XPath that points to the image field, in which case this is repeating. And then we have the same width parameter as we did before. And that will convert it. And you want to make sure you maintain proportions to keep the aspect ratio. Okay, so there's the command actually in the form, an image to it with the actual concat, the pointer to the XPath, actually, and the other parameters. So you can see there's a little bit of detail here. So there's these new commands, max width and max height, that you can use in the AlterImage. And I don't know if we did that in this case, but they're exactly the same as what you'd expect with the custom Java scaling here, the custom scale picture.javascript. So it allows you to scale it and keep the aspect ratio. And to do that, you have to specify one of the axes. You want the width, the x-axis, or the height, the y-axis. You'd say, hey, I want to max out the here. If I can get back to it. So you specify either the maximum width or the maximum height, and then the other dimension, the one that you don't specify, is the one that gets scaled. So you're scaling both of them, but one of them is determined by the other. So typically you're going to have one of these parameters set, and you can see there's a definition there. Now you can also do both of them, but that gives you the option of saying, look, I want to fit in this box, and the box is so wide and so high. Now this isn't going to change the image underlying. So the one downside of this technique, this AlterImage, is that it changes the underlying resolution of the image, which is what you want if you're submitting the form. You want it to go fast. But if you want to keep the detail to give them the zoom option, then you're going to need this custom scaling. And that actually will just show the image smaller. It'll still be large. So that means that if you are saving the form, you might want to save the attachment to some other location first and use a link to it. That's a nice technique because then you can open the form, and it's not going to pull down that 3 or 4 megabyte image every single time. It'll just show you the image as a link to a picture. And that technique is also in the expense report. You can see how we did that. We save the attachments to a separate library, and then we convert them into those links that you saw with the first demo. Okay, well, that's it for the demo today, the webinar. And I hope everyone's doing well, staying warm. Any questions for me before we finish? Once again, we are very happy to have you introduce Forms Viewer and Forms Designer. We're calling Qdabra Forms now. So we've actually rebranded the replacement that we provide for InfoPath. The InfoPath is long in the tooth. It's going away at some point in the next year or two. Microsoft has said 2026, and they moved it up to 2023. They used to have 2023 originally. Well, 2023 is the end of next year. So we've seen a few breaking changes with the designer and the InfoPath filler and Forms with Code. Nothing that we couldn't work around, but the day will come when there will be a breaking change that impacts you and Microsoft decides not to fix it. And so you do need to think about moving those forms off of InfoPath. And Qdabra Forms Designer are the only apps that allow you to move the form pretty much as is. So you don't have to rebuild the forms from scratch like you would if you were creating a Power App. So that's the good thing there, is that we have the lowest cost plan to move you forward. Now we also have a ton of new features, including this AlterImage feature and many, many more that we've webinared in the past. And that's the second point here. It's lots of new features. We're no longer in the InfoPath age in terms of the forms technology. We have new web tools, new JavaScript, new web browsers, and we're taking advantage of all that new cool stuff. The floating labels, the responsive design, with those new features. So you definitely want to take a look at those. And today's webinar is a great example. You also get our support. So we have a very responsive team here. We're very small, but we pride ourselves on helping you out. And that's invaluable. A lot of people don't realize how valuable that this is to them. The ability to ask an expert here how to do something. And we provide these webinars. They're for free. We provide the training twice a year for free. And I'm really happy to say that Forms Designer, which we've been working on all last year, is closer and closer to what we would call a 1.0 release. We shipped the beta in April, and Forms Designer is the tool that you use to design your forms without using InfoPath Designer. And I've demoed this in the past, but let me just show you what it looks like for a second here. It is getting very feature-full, feature-rich, it's not quite total parity with the InfoPath Designer. We're still trying to finish a few things. It has some things that InfoPath Designer does not have. So here's I believe this is the form. I'm trying to think, this is probably not the one. I don't think this is the one that we demoed today, but this will work. So here's the design button, and this is the Forms Designer. And you can see that it's a slightly different form than when I demoed, but you can see it's pretty close. So this is the one I did say the last demo. I'm just going to change this and show you how easy it is to change the form in the designer. Save it. Obviously, it's got the view. I can go into the view and change it. It's got some new features, as you can see down below here, SharePoint mappings, something that InfoPath did not have. Get a new UI to define your SharePoint mappings. That's pretty cool. We've got the ability to add rules, add controls, add XML template parts, lots of stuff. In the designer, you can change the view. And yeah, really happy to say that we're very close to what I would call feature parity with InfoPath Designer. We're still working on data connections. You can see we've already got support for certain kinds of data connections already. A lot of data connections in this form. and you can add your own data connection. But we don't support all variants yet, but we will by the end of March, hopefully. So that's the Forms Designer. Really happy to announce that we're very close to finally saying that's a 1.0 release. It has been out in beta almost all year, so you could have looked at it before. We did a lot of training classes, labs on it at the end of November, beginning of this month. So take a look at that if you're interested. The webinar will be posted to YouTube at the end, and then if you're interested in our training, just go to our sister site, our community site is Info.dev. You click on downloads, and all of the training for Forms Viewer is here. We actually haven't uploaded the December training class yet. This is the April one, but we will upload the December training class soon, and all the content will be available there. So like we did our first demo of the Forms Designer in April, and day one of this April training class featured it a lot. The training that we just finished, end of November, beginning of December, actually featured Forms Designer on more than like 2.5 days of the training. So that was focused. We're focusing a lot on it right now. Hope you guys all have a wonderful New Year celebration. Watch out for those pandemic crazy people, crazy viruses. Mask up. Don't forget the Omicron variant is much more sneaky than the previous ones. You might want to wear one of those special N95 masks. Watch out. It's a crazy world out there, but we thank you for being here. And look forward to presenting many, many more webinars in 2022. Have a great day. Thanks so much, everyone. Happy New Year.